All right. Firstly, thanks for joining us all today. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. Today I'm on Kaurna land and I pay my respects to Kaurna people and also pay my respects to elders past, present and future. And I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with us today.
Still be nice for them. Yeah. It's their actual birthday one.
Unless you've got a question, just get you to keep yourselves on mute. I know things happen, so it's all good. So first theme today is around eligibility. For all of you that need a little bit of guidance or support or help, either throughout the 15 minutes we got on eligibility or afterwards, there's a QR code on the top right-hand side of your screen. That will actually take you directly to our website and to the page called Who Do I Cover? And this is a great starting point if you need a little bit of help or additional information. Eligibility is based on two key streams. Firstly, the role must be covered by the SHADS or the Aboriginal Legal Rights Movement Award. And then any full-time, part-time or casual employees are eligible if they're working in the community services sector as defined in Schedule 2 of the Portable Long Service Leave Act. You can find a list of those workers covered by Schedule 2 at a information sheet that we've got on our website called Eligibility at a Glance. And I'll put that link to that information sheet in the chat as well. So really, I don't want to talk too much because I know we'll take time away from all your questions. So really open the floor to any questions. So we got some questions up front from people who are coming along today on eligibility itself. And essentially, eligibility, like I said, is based on those two streams. So you're either under the SHADS or ALRM award and working in the community services sector, or you are a worker that supports the provision of community services, and that means that your role that you play, you support a eligible worker more than 50% of your time in the role that you perform. And that can be a little bit subjective, but that's what the Act says. If anyone wants to jump in and ask any questions in relation to eligibility, feel free, and now is your time. Don't be scared, everyone.
So quiet.
I guess the thing from an eligibility perspective is many questions that we've got are around different awards. But the key thing to remember is for that first stream is that's either the SHADS and the AL or the ALRM award and performing a community service. So I'll just see Lorinda's got her hand up. Go for it, Lorinda. The floor's yours.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi there, Aaron. How you doing?
Well, thank you.
Excellent. Look, nurses, we've got RNs and ENs and also allied professionals working for our business under different awards, but they do support the service provision that we have in community services, and a little unclear as to, because, can you provide any clarity there? And even down to the type of worker when we're actually registering these workers, what type of worker are they? They don't come up in any of the list of what you have there. They're not managers and they're not admin workers.
Yeah, I guess, Mandy, you jump in at any time you feel that you necessarily think you want to. But I guess the thing is, from your nurse's perspective, I assume that they sit under a different award, so maybe the Health Professionals Award. So they wouldn't, in their normal day-to-day activities when they're out working with clients or customers, because they don't fit into that first stream, they're not under the SHADS Award or the ALRM Award. They're not eligible under that criteria, but they could only be eligible if they're supporting someone else within your organisation from supporting the provision of. So I'm sure Mandy can come up with a bit of an example in that space, because I know we've talked about this a fair bit.
Yeah, We've heard some people are employing nurses who write care plans and those kinds of things for clients, and then those care plans are given to a support worker to actually deliver the plan. In that respect, a nurse who's writing those plans would absolutely be supporting the provision of community services, because that actual plan would be delivered by someone who is providing community services directly. So if that's kind of the situation that the nurses are in, then yes, they would be eligible under the supporting the provision criteria. If they're providing the services directly to the clients out in the community, then they wouldn't be, because they're not covered by the right award.
The key thing to remember there is that if they are supporting the provision, they need to be doing that more than 50% of their time at work doing it. So I guess that's a bit of a 50-50 rule that you need to think of there,
So
Lorinda.
in our case, we've got high complex clients. They are working out directly with the clients, providing care.
Yeah. So those people would not be eligible because they're providing a service, but they're not covered by the right awards. So you don't need to register them.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Excellent,
No problem.
Lorinda. I've got next on my list, I've got Ian. G'day, Ian. How are you, mate?
Good, thanks. Got a question in regards to how far up the chain it applies, particularly in regard to executive staff who are not on an award and don't have direct line management to front line staff as opposed to the organisation responsibilities.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's one we've heard a fair bit about, and essentially it would come down to how much time they are, I guess, supporting the provision of the community services with their staff. So if we take an example, say, of a chief executive who obviously, essentially manages every person in the organisation, whether or not it's be one row below or many rows below in the org chart. It depends on, I guess, the work that's being provided from that organisation. So if the work is 100% in eligible roles, then therefore this chief executive is supporting the provision of all of those staff and would also be eligible. It all depends on the work that's being provided by the organisation, really, and through those line managers, how much they are supporting what portion of the workforce in that organisation. Mandy, did I miss anything in that, or did I make everyone else confused? Ian, does that make sense, or are you still a bit confused in that one?
Yeah, I understand it. I just query it in relation to the objective of the whole portable long service leave provision.
The intention of that part of the Act was so that businesses who are primarily providing community services, and that's what they do, would be able to register their entire workforce instead of having to pick and choose who they were registering. And then the other intention behind being able to do that was to keep skilled and experienced community services workers in that part of the sector, rather than having them move around, and just keep all of that experience for the sector itself.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, at the end of the day, Ian, I guess we're here to deliver what the legislation says. So it is what it is, and we're doing what we can to make sure people know what they need to do. Thank you, Ian. Natalia, I think that's how you say it. If I've got it wrong, I'm sorry.
No, all good. Thank you. Just in regards to what you just said about staff like a chief executive or CFO, that they do not have under the share award. However, they have or provide community services.
Yep.
This is not something that they can opt in or out. Is that right? Or is it something like is it mandatory because they are in the community services, even though they are not under the share award?
That's right. So I guess it comes down to that second stream of providing the provision of community services, and that's whether or not they're doing that more than 50% of their time or not is the criteria there. There's a different set of criteria for working directors, which is voluntary, I think, from memory. But if they are a contracted employee of the organisation, then yes, it is mandatory.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else have we got? I know we've only got 5 minutes left on this theme, so I feel like we're cracking on, which is good.
That went so fast.
It did. It did. It doesn't take long to get through those 15 minutes. Who else have we got? Anyone with a hand up? Okay.
We had a question in the chat about mental health clinicians under the Health Professionals Award.
Yep.
And it was very much like the nurses in that if they're making referrals or plans for people to deliver and the people who are delivering those plans are covered under the SHADS Award, then those people would also be eligible as they're supporting the provision of community services.
Yeah, cool. I did forget to mention at the start that if you do feel a little bit shy in putting your hand up and asking a question on the camera, just chuck it in the chat, and I know Mandy's pretty good at answering them through that way as well. So thank you, Andrea. I know I don't wear a hat like this very often, but I appreciate your kind thoughts on my Santa hat. Anyone else we got that's got a question with the last couple of minutes left? Nothing burning a hole in anyone's heads? No.
I guess if people are not sure about eligibility, you're welcome to email us or call us for questions. We can't always go, yes, your role's eligible, or no, your role's not eligible, but we can provide you with the guidance to be able to make that assessment yourself based on what the legislation says.
Yeah, and I will chuck that eligibility at a glance document into the chat now as well. Bear with me. There you go. So there is there's a direct link to the information sheet on that one. I know we've also held webinars around eligibility as well. And if I can be really quick on that, I'll see if I can find that as well. Webinars, eligibility, here we go. All right, it's just a YouTube link to a recording on the webinar that we've done as well. So I guess what I'll do is if we haven't got any more questions, we'll just wait a couple of minutes before we kick off with the next theme, which is transitional arrangements. As I said earlier, with our website, there is a ton of resources available for you, not just on eligibility, but on entire themes around the scheme. There's a ton of information on our resources page with toolkits and FAQs and recordings of our webinars. And also we've recorded some step-by-step videos that go through different processes around, I guess, what employers need to do as well. And then if at the very least, if you still don't understand or you still can't find the information you're looking for, we've got some community workers, not community workers, some customer service officers here in the office that are available to take your call or respond to your emails, as Mandy said. So feel free to ask questions. I don't want you to think that you're on your own in this space. If you don't know what you're doing, or if you're unsure about something, or you simply just want to wish us Merry Christmas, just give us a call, send us an email, and we'll do our best to help you out. No last minute chats in the thing, Mandy?
Nope.
All right, and no more questions on eligibility. I can't see any more, which is good. Okay. All right, let's move on. So we're going to talk about transitional arrangements in this 15-minute block. Once again, the QR code on the right-hand top page, part of the page, is a direct link to the transitional arrangements section on our website. So that QR code will take you directly to it. So if you take a snap of that, you'll be able to read a little bit more about it on our website. We also have a couple of information sheets on our website around transitional arrangements for employers and for workers, and I'll chuck them in the chat as well at some point. I guess if you're employing workers who are eligible for portable long service leave prior to the commencement of the Portable Long Service Leave Act, employers remain responsible for the long service leave accrual and liability under the State Act for the period of employment prior to registration with the scheme. So it's a really important distinction to make around pre-scheme service and then portable long service leave service. And importantly, there's a couple of different, I guess, examples, if you like, that we'll run through today. I guess the first point where I'll start is dependent on how much service your worker holds will determine, I guess, what employer needs to do. So there's an example where a worker holds an entitlement for more than 7 years with your organisation under the State Act, so pre-scheme service. The organisation, the employer, is required to keep the associated records and funds for the provision of that long service leave that the worker has accrued. For workers who already hold an entitlement upon registration with the scheme, the liability for that long service leave is fixed at the amount that would have been payable the day before registration. That is a clear distinction on what's required if they hold a entitlement of more than 7 years. Now, if a worker doesn't hold an entitlement with your business or organisation under the State Act upon commencement of the scheme, but then reaches an entitlement after the registration, the employer is required to keep the records and funds for the provision of the long service leave prior to the registration as well. However, the workers who reach an entitlement after registration with the scheme, the liability for that long service leave is calculated upon claim at the rate defined on the day of leave. Mandy, I'm right, aren't I? I love
That
being
is
right.
correct. Their liability for the employer is held based on the amount of leave in that case, and then the actual dollar value is calculated during the claim.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you. Importantly, to also keep in the back of your minds, if you have been or are employing workers eligible for portable long service leave prior to the commencement of the scheme, but then that worker ceased employment before reaching an entitlement, the employer is not liable for service accrued prior to registration with the scheme. The employer is only liable for entitlements accrued prior to the designated day where the worker is eligible for a payment under the State Act. So what that means is if your worker has been working with you less than 7 years pre-scheme and into the portable scheme, they'll lose any pre-scheme service that they were working towards. So they have to have reached that 7-year mark to become entitled to, I guess, that pro rata side of things. But if they leave your organisation before hitting that 7-year mark, even after the scheme has started, they'll lose pre-scheme service. Just like in normal circumstances, if you don't stay with an employer, if the scheme didn't exist, if you don't stay with your employer for up to 7 years, you wouldn't have any long service leave anyway. So do we have any questions about that in particular? Does anyone want to put their hand up, or any confusion or clarity required? Natalia?
Hi, me again. Just in terms of the employees who have, prior long service leave, just gonna example, like if someone have 23 weeks of long service leave accrued by 30th of September. So does that mean like I have to register in the books those 23 weeks times the actual rate by the 30th of September? So it's nothing that would change if then they are in the scheme, in the new scheme, and they request long service leave in 2 years. It's not going to be the actual rate. I'm going to pay on the rate that the staff had by the 30th of September.
So with that question, we've kind of got two parts to it. So when you're calculating that liability, absolutely 100%, you're calculating that on the 30th of September. Because that person's got 23 weeks of leave available on the 30th of September, that liability that you calculate is the maximum that you'll ever have to pay towards that person's long service leave entitlements. However, when the person actually does come to claim 2 years down the track and their rate of pay is changed, we're still going to want that rate of pay from you because we pay the worker based on their rate at the time of claim. So your liability doesn't change. You still only have to give us the same amount of money, but the rate that the worker gets paid might be different. So if the worker's gone up a little bit in pay during that time and there is a discrepancy between your liability and the amount the worker's actually going to get paid for that leave, that's up to the scheme to fund that little difference in liability.
Thank you, Mandy.
No problem.
Okay, have we got any other questions on that one? I'm just trying to find the links to those transitional arrangement toolkits as well, and I'll chuck them in the chat.
Yeah. So with the transitional arrangements, if someone's asking any questions right now, we're going to capture all the information for the service that was accrued before commencement of the scheme in February. Looking to kick off on the 4th of February at this stage. There will be a one-off returns process, and that process will involve capturing data that will populate onto the worker's account, so that we'll be able to see how much long service leave and service to the industry that they have accrued already before the scheme commenced. So by the end of March, hopefully the workers' accounts should be a bit more full. It will make a bit more sense. We'll be able to do our claim processes online because all of the data will be in the system. The other important thing about this special process that we're doing to capture that data is there's no payment. So normally with your quarterly returns, you'll declare your service for your workers, and then it will calculate a levy based on the remuneration, and then you get an invoice and you have to pay that. With this one, there's no invoice. It's just about collecting the data that we need to capture the service that was accrued before the system. There's an information sheet available now about what that will look like. So if you do want to know what kind of information you need to capture for that, it's on the information sheet on the website now. And then we'll be sending that out a bit more and holding a webinar at the end of January on that. But we do want to just get through this first quarterly return process in January before we start focusing on the state long service leave return process.
I will just chuck that link into the step-by-step state long service leave return guide just for everyone to be aware of. But like Mandy said, we don't want to overload you with what you need to do, especially with your returns due by the 21st of January, and some of you still have work to do to get your workers registered as well. So that is on the chat now. Like I said, there is a ton of resources on our website, and I know a lot of work has gone into preparing and providing those resources for all people involved in the scheme. So take your time to have a look around. If you're unsure about anything, just come and chat to us and ask us some questions, and we can guide you or point you in the right direction. Anything in the chat I can't see that you can see, Mandy?
Nothing. Everybody's very quiet today.
Well, that means everyone knows what transitional requirements and arrangements are, which is great.
I'm sure it does.
So I don't expect any questions to come through on that one, if that's the case. Okay. I will actually mention that, or actually before I do, Heather's just come through with a question, I think. Heather,
yes.
Yes. You want to answer that one?
Who's liable for super on a payment made by SAPLSL for long service leave? So the advice we can give you on this is that portable long service leave don't pay superannuation on long service leave payments. We can't provide you advice on employer obligations towards workers because it's not covered by our Act. We recommend you seek independent advice on that if you're not sure.
Cool, thank you. Natalia, you've got your hand up again.
Sorry, guys.
Please don't apologise. This is what it's for. So perfect.
In case that the person who have already before the scheme is already entitled to long service leave, I just saw the toolkit information where someone can claim anytime, and be paid from the employee and not from the portable long service leave. Is that correct? Is that what I'm understanding well or not? If the scheme started, if the person wants to be paid from the employer, is it possible?
So I think you might be talking about the extinguished liability provisions. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So in the legislation, there are provisions where an employer and a worker can agree to extinguish the liability held by the employer for the long service leave that was accrued under the Long Service Leave Act 1987 before the scheme started. So basically, that's an agreement between the worker and employer for managing that long service leave entitlement that had already accrued. You can do that at any time. There is a form available. So if you do make that agreement, there's a form available on our website for you to download and fill in to tell us that you've done that. This is more important after February because what we need to do is update the worker's balance on the account to show that that long service leave that was recorded that he had claimed accrued before the scheme started has already been claimed. So the worker is not entitled to two payments for that, obviously. They're only entitled to it from the employer directly or from portable long service leave. For anyone who's continuing to work in the community services sector, ideally they're going to apply for all of their payments through portable long service leave moving forwards. But if the worker and the employer do want to extinguish that liability that the employer is holding at any point in time, then they're welcome to do so.
Thanks.
No worries.
I think you might have touched on this when you talked about the state long service leave return, Mandy, but just for if I didn't hear it right, the balances on or the workers portal at this point in time won't show up, obviously, whatever they've accrued pre-scheme, and that will be obviously gathered through that long service leave return guide in February, and that's at that point afterwards when workers' balances will be updated and will include pre-scheme service as well. So if you get any of your workers come to you and say, none of my services showing up, or maybe
my
understanding
portal's
what
blank.
yeah,
There's
my
all
portal's
zeros
blank.
all over my portals. Where's all my
Yeah.
service? That's
Just,
very normal.
It is very normal, and it probably scares the hell out of some people thinking that they've got all this service owed to them. So please just talk to your workers around. We just need that time to be able to update their balances once we get that information from all of their employers. So it's not an anomaly. It is designed by purpose, and it will be updated when we do get that information in February. So yeah, if you have anyone worried about the scheme not recognising that, just set the record straight, or send them to us and we can share and tell them what the time frame is around that. All right, just the last couple of minutes on transitional arrangements. If anyone has any last minute questions or wants to share an example of one of their employees with us so we can give them some support, or if you want to sing a Christmas carol. No.
Well, while we're talking about state service, and it's a bit of a crossover with claims, but at the moment, I don't know if anyone's filled out the claim form online for one of their workers to be able to take long service leave currently. But on the claim form at the moment, the second page of the form includes a section where we're actually capturing that data that will go on the state long service leave return now. And we need that information to be able to process worker payments at the moment, because none of the workers have any long service leave entitlements through the Portable Act because it's only been in effect for a couple of months now. So if you do want to have a look at what that looks like, or you're not sure what that means as well, on the front of the claim form, there's a big page that explains what we mean by each of the fields. So hopefully that page will help you to be able to complete the sections on the form that you need to complete, particularly in relation to the state long service leave that we need to pop on the account to pay the workers.
Excellent. Thanks, Mandy. We'll wrap up transitional arrangements just with saying, don't forget that you can see on your screen now, there's our website and our admin email address if you want to ask any questions or send anything through. And the phone numbers are there as well if you feel like you want to have a chat to any of our staff around your specific questions. And again, that QR code on the top right-hand corner will take you directly to the transitional arrangements payment page. Okay, 11 o'clock, moving on to employer registration obligations. For help during this theme, just like the other two themes, we have a unique QR code on the top right-hand corner for you, which will take you directly to our website and the page called How to Register as an Employer. It's actually under the employers tab on our website, and there's a drop down box that you'll be able to find it. I'll also, for this theme as well, drop in a number of links that will provide you with some additional support, and we have a couple of videos available on our YouTube account that I'll drop into the chat that specifically runs through how to register as an employer and how to register your workers. And I think we even have a recording of a webinar we did a couple of months back around employer registration and how to add workers. So I'll I'll put that in the chat as well. So employer registration obligations, I'm going to assume everyone on the chat today has registered their organisation and working towards registering all of their workers. If you have not, put your hand up, and if you've got any questions or if you've got any concerns, or you know you're a little bit late to the party and you're not sure what to do, ask away.
Has anybody not registered yet? Can you put your hand up if you haven't? Ah, cool.
That's great.
That is
that means
great.
They're all registered. I assume then they either have or working towards registering their workers as well, which I know we gave a couple of options. You can either do them one by one or you can do a bulk upload. So hopefully that worked as well. Lorinda, you got a question for us?
Yeah, hey there guys.
Hello.
Again.
Good.
So yes, we have got about 500 odd employees that we're registering. So adopting the upload, it would be really helpful to have, I guess, what the definition or what the parameters are in some of those columns. So I sort of
Can you just explain that a little bit more? Because
so I think, for example, when it comes to the type of worker, you require the type of worker. You don't actually have a legend or anything that allows me to drop down or pick that type of worker in the template. So
So on your template, there's 2 tabs at the bottom. Do you have an information tab on the second one?
I've saved it. I'll have a look. I don't have it up on screen at the moment, but I just sort of found it a bit tricky to navigate.
Yeah.
My question was more so the ease of uploading it. I haven't gotten to that stage, and I'm cutting it a bit short with the festive season about to hit us. Any experience there or advice? Is it pretty streamlined in terms of upload and good to go, or?
Pretty much, yeah. So the information tab, the template itself has 2 tabs. So the first one is where your actual data goes. The second one is an information tab, and it goes through and explains what all the columns are and what information goes in them. And it also tells you which ones are mandatory, so that you have to put those in, and which ones you don't. So if you want to have a look at that tab, anything that has predefined values does have a drop down that you have to select those predefined values from. But the first tab of the spreadsheet isn't actually locked down. So if you did copy paste into it, it would let you do that. But then when you try and upload it, you'll get errors. So best have a look at what the different things are on the information tab first, and then find out which ones are the mandatory ones and which ones do you have drop down, so that you're able to make sure that you put the right data in those cells to avoid those errors. But basically, if you've filled out all the spreadsheet right, followed the instructions, you upload it, it's super fast to do.
Yeah, I've just opened up my worksheet, and being the worker registration template, and I've got a diary entry sheet, and then I've got an instruction sheet. And Perfect. It was that instruction sheet that I didn't actually have any further details as to. It says, so column V, worker type, select the role worker is performing from the list, but I actually have no list. So unless I've got the wrong template, I downloaded it off your website. So
the portal?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, no worries. We'll have a look into that one for you.
Thanks, Linda. We'll just take that one away with us, and we'll just check that at the same time, if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries.
That instruction sheet should be available and should share exactly what you need to need to complete in that section. Yeah.
I found I sort of had to jump back into the portal and look at a template of a new employee, as in adding it individually to get access to what the options were.
Yeah, no, all good. I guess that's the intent that we've got, is to try and make things as simple and easy as possible for everyone. So if that's causing a little bit of grief, we apologise, and we'll just check that out and see what we can do to make a little bit easier for everyone. But thank you for that. I was about to just read that one out. So thank you, Mandy.
Let's read it out anyway.
Yes. We had a question that says, if an employee moves interstate, will they lose their portable long service leave entitlement? And Mandy just chucked the response into the chat quickly, and it says that they won't lose their entitlements, but at the moment they can't be transferred or be recognised interstate. An agreement is likely to be made for interstate recognition in the future. And that's a really important thing to just note, that whilst there are schemes across Australia and different states for community services, I think they're in Queensland, New South Wales, the ACT and Victoria, there is no agreement between the states at this point in time to be able to recognise an interstate service. So there is provisions in the Act for that to occur at some point in time, but it just hasn't happened as yet, as we are still early days in the scheme, and the intent that it will happen at some point. So they won't lose it if they come back and work in South Australia within the certain timeframes. They will be able to just pick straight up and continue on accruing leave. There are some rules.
Touch on that, Aaron.
Please do.
You keep going.
No, I'm actually dropping links into the chat, so please, Mandy, go for it.
Okay. So I was going to say, if someone does move interstate, whilst they're not going to lose their service straight away, they are subject to the rules about being absent from the sector. So because they're not working in the sector in South Australia and no service is being recorded for them, there's potential that after a certain period of time that service will be cancelled. If the agreements with the interstate boards is all put together before any of that happens, then they won't need to worry about it. But those break periods are, if the person has less than 5 years of service, then they've got 2 years before that service is cancelled. If it's between 5 and 7, it's 3 years. And once they have 7 years altogether, then it stays there indefinitely. So if the person were to move interstate and they'd already had 7 years of service accrued, it would just sit there. If an interstate agreement was reached at that point, then they'd be able to access it from either state.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Mandy. Anyone else got any questions on anything you need to do in relation to registering yourselves as an employer, or registering your workers, or I chucked a link into the chat around compliance and enforcement, which we've talked about a little bit in past webinars, that I guess our intent at these early stages is to work with employers to try and make sure that they're doing what they need to do. We are taking a hands-on approach around support and help where needed. We don't necessarily want to go down the path of fining anyone for not doing what they need to do, and we would prefer to I guess, hold your hands and work together on what that might look like. And as my parents keep telling me, if you don't know, ask questions, and if you don't ask questions, you've got no one else to blame. So we want to work with you and try and help you through that space. Another good bit of advice is to keep records of any of the outcomes that you've decided. If we talk about the things that we've spoken about already, or anything around a decision that you as an organisation has made, keep some records and some information as to why you've got to that point, or how you got to that point. And if there's ever a time that we need to come and talk to you about a scenario or a situation, it's really helpful for everyone that those notes are available, and we understand exactly where you're coming from. So please keep your records and keep your notes, and keep that information available, just so we can come back to it if we need to at any point. All right, how are we looking? No more hands up? Yep.
We've just popped in the chat a picture of the worker upload template. with the drop-down list. I can't remember who we were talking to about that before.
Lorinda, I think.
Was it Lorinda? Does your
Yes, thank
template
you.
have that drop-down in it?
No, it does not, but I'll investigate further.
No, that's okay. We'll check it as well, because if you don't have it, then that's not going to help you, is it? So we'll find out what's going on with that. I will make sure we've got the right version available for you. In the meantime, we might flag that. We'll try and email it to you as well, so you can see what it looks like.
Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, just so everyone knows, I have just popped in maybe 6 or 7 or 8 different information sheets around employer obligations and registering your workers, and for any working directors or self-employed contractors, there's an information sheet specifically for you in the chat. I've also sent you a link for those step-by-step videos and a recording of webinar number 5, which was called Employer Registration and How to Add Workers, for those who need to go down that path still. Anyone got any more questions? I'm loving this, the fact that I was expecting that we were going to get absolutely hammered with really difficult questions, and maybe I need to shut up because it might not happen, but it might happen. But I was expecting some really challenging, difficult questions, and it just means that obviously you've got the information you needed, or we're waiting for a different theme, which is fine.
Maybe everyone's just in holiday mode already.
That is true. That's true. Okay. I don't think we've missed anything around employer registration obligations. I know the next obligation you've got after registering all your workers is to complete the returns form. Now that returns form is available on your employer portal. Just a quick note on that: if you hadn't registered your employees, your workers, before that return document popped up on your employer portal, it won't have included any of your workers because they haven't been registered yet. If you are in that situation, there is a simple couple of options in that space. You can do them one by one through the return process, or if you let us know, I think there's some functionality that we might be able to do from the back end where it just adds them directly to your returns form, and you can go from there. Like I said, the returns form is available for you to complete. Now that returns form is due on the 21st of January next year. I don't want to look too far ahead because I haven't had my holiday yet, but it's due on the 21st of January, and the levy is also due by that date as well. It doesn't mean you have to, you can't lodge it and pay for the return beforehand. That is just the due date. So for those who leave the return form to the last day, the 21st of January, the levy is due on that same day. So if you need any help or support or an explanation around that space, just let us know, and we can go from there. All right. Let's have a little think about, since I don't think we've got any more questions in that space, which is timely because it's now 11:15, and we are going to move on to periodic returns, which is your quarterly return, and they are due, well, I will not say due, they have obviously included the first quarter, which is the 1st of October to the 31st of December this year, and then obviously every quarter following that, and each return and each levy is due on the 21st day following the completion of that quarter. So as with all the other slides, a unique QR code on the top right hand side of your slide now will take you directly to the step-by-step returns guide, which is an information sheet on our website. Additionally, we have a webinar recording called Webinar Completing Your Quarterly Return, and I'll put that into the chat as well. And we have run 4 webinar sessions on this specific topic throughout the last couple of months in preparation for the returns to be lodged, and we have one last session, I think it's booked for the 14th of January next year. So if you want to register for that session, head over to our contacts page on our website and register to attend.
We will be continuing to run those moving forwards, just not quite as frequently as we are at the moment.
Yep, all good. All right, how are we looking for the chat? Oh, thank you, Mandy. You've just said, yeah, so Naomi has just asked around remuneration, what does it include and what it doesn't? So there is a list of inclusions and exclusions on our website, and I believe, Mandy, that's the link you've just put on the chat there.
Yeah, it absolutely is, because I actually can't remember them all. And that's why I've used the link, and I would look at that page all the time, and because it's too hard to remember that many things. But the short version is travel fares and vehicle allowances are not included. First aid allowance is included. There are some other allowances that are included, like shift allowances and sleepover allowance. Sick leave is included, annual leave is included, annual leave loading is not included. We have had a couple of questions around annual leave loading because it depends on how your payroll system is set up as to how easy it is to not include that. Basically, if you have annual leave loading as a separate amount, easy, leave it out. If you don't have it as a separate amount and you have like a special annual leave rate that includes the loading on it as well, it's up to you how you want to manage that. If you want to calculate those hours at the normal rate of pay so that you're not including that loading, then do that. If that's way too much work for you and you just want to put in the whole lot and pay a slightly extra levy, you're welcome to do so as well. You don't have to pay the annual leave loading, but if it's going to take you too much time to remove it, it's not going to matter if you do include it. It just means that your levy will be a little bit higher than it needs to be. Does it also include weeks if a member takes a full week of leave? Yes, you do include that as weeks on your return. So when we're talking about weeks worked, what it means is a week where they were paid for any kind of work or shift or leave. So if there was a week and they had 2 hours of work on that, that's a week. If they have a week where they took 38 hours of annual leave, also 1 week. And that's what we mean by weeks worked. The only time that you would not include a week worked is if the person didn't get paid for anything at all during that week. Higher duties and on-call allowances. We've had on-call allowance question asked quite a lot, and it's not actually listed in either of those lists under included or excluded. But what the regulations do say is that if the payment is not explicitly excluded, then by default it is included. And so that means that if they have on-call allowances, which is not excluded, then you should include them because anything that's not excluded is included. And higher duties are as well.
Excellent. Okay. I think that's the clear distinction there that Mandy just mentioned, that the excluded list is quite specific and calls out all of the parts of remuneration that will should not be included. The advice that we've got is that if it's not on that excluded list, it is included. So if you can't see it on the excluded list, the suggestion from us would be that it is included in the remuneration process. Okay. Angela, I hope I'm not scaring you. Good. Excellent. That's the main thing. I was just thinking, hopefully that's not a shocked face. Oh, good. Overtime. Can't remember that one.
Overtime is not included.
Okay, cool. Is the long service leave taken included?
So when portable long service leave paid, the long service leave, no, because we're paying it, you're not paying it. So that's not included in your remuneration. If you were to pay the worker directly for long service leave and they weren't terminating when you paid them, then absolutely you do need to include that. So when we're talking about extinguishing liability, if the worker and the employer do agree to extinguish liability and that's not done on termination, then yes, that does become part of remuneration because it's not on the excluded list. That said, any payments made on termination are not included. So if someone finishes up with you and you pay them out all their annual leave, and then at that point you agree to do your extinguished liability and pay them out the long service leave accrued before the scheme starts, you don't need to include either of those payment amounts in your remuneration on your return.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Mary's just put a question in the chat. So thank you, Mary. What if someone has over 7 years pro rata long service leave with the employer and then now the balance is transferred into the new long service leave scheme? How does it work in terms of payment if he wants to take long service leave?
So what happens is ideally the person is still going to claim their long service leave through portable long service leave. We'll communicate with the employer to make sure that that long service leave balance is available and what the amount to be paid is going to be. We will be paying the worker and the employer will be invoiced for the portion of service that was included and that was from the state long service leave before the scheme started. So during processing of that claim, we'll have lots of conversations with you and emails and things to tell you exactly what you're going to be liable for and how the process will work. But effectively, what we'll do is send you an invoice saying this is the amount that we're going to invoice you for that long service leave accrued before the scheme starts, and then we make payment to the worker. With the rates, we're going to ask you to tell us if you were paying the worker for long service leave right now today, what would you pay them? And so you're going to need to be able to calculate what their long service leave weekly rate of pay would be under the Long Service Leave Act at any given point in time. And then that's what we're going to pay the worker at. The employer's liability, like we talked about earlier, if they already had 7 years at 30 September, then that number is static. If the person reached the 7 years after the scheme started, then it will depend on what their weekly rate of pay is upon claim. So like I said, as part of that claim process, we'll work with you and explain to you how all those calculations work and exactly what we're going to invoice you for and when payments are due. And then we've got a question that says, what if we're facilitating the payment so the employee can salary package? So if the person is claiming through portable long service leave, we can still do salary packaging provisions. It's just that the way that works is that a portion of the worker's payment is paid to the employer to manage that salary sacrifice or salary packaging that they already have in place. So for example, if the person's going to get 1 week of leave and they get paid $2,000 and they want to salary sacrifice $600 of that, we'll pay the $600 to the employer, and then the remaining amount will then have the tax calculated and the final net amount paid to the worker. With the facilitating the payment thing, so the only way an employer can pay a worker directly for portable long service leave, is for the long service leave accrued before the scheme started. So employers cannot pay workers directly for portable long service leave. That's only up to us to do that.
I was going to say, I know we're venturing into claims now, so I'll just pause on a couple of those things. Okay, sorry, my bad.
No, you're right. Let's talk about that in the claims section, if that's okay, Andrea.
Yeah, a little bit more on that side. But I have just logged in a little link to the claiming the long service leave with the salary sacrifice portion information sheet to our chat there. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the claims section. So let's just quickly move on to Christy's issue around having a new employee just started with them a couple of weeks ago, which were not part of their initial worker registration. That's no dramas at all. So literally, if you've registered them individually, well, you can actually register them individually now as part of a separate process, and they won't possibly show up on your returns form. But as part of your returns form, you can then add them as an existing worker because you've already registered them. But if you haven't registered them, you can also, as part of your returns form, jump on and add a new worker and then complete the details of that new worker on that Excel spreadsheet. And as Mandy alluded to a little while ago, there are some instructions on that instructions tab to help you understand exactly where you need to enter that information and what information is required. So Christy, you've got a couple of options in there to be able to do that. It shouldn't be too difficult, but if you do get stuck, just reach out to us and we can give you some step-by-step instructions on what to do in that space. Sorry, or that follow on from Andrea, is that claims related, Mandy?
No, this is returns related, so that's okay.
Cool. Good.
So what Andrew's asking is if the salary packaging amount that's paid to the employer from portable long service leave is included as part of remuneration. No, it isn't. Absolutely not. So normally your salary packaging amount would be, so what you would pay the worker normally through the salary packaging is, but if we're making the payment to you for a long service leave payment, then no, you don't include that.
Brilliant. All right, thank you for that. Natalia, did I see your hand up?
Yes, just going back to, to overtime, just to confirm, if an example, a staff does 3 hours of overtime, is definitely not included in the return, or is it the 3 hours are calculated onto the normal rate?
No overtime is included.
So
if
it's
the person got
totally
paid overtime rates, you don't include that at all.
Okay, thanks.
No worries.
You're welcome. Excellent. Okay. Anything else on your quarterly returns? This is the thing that's going to be your ongoing, I guess, responsibility. Each quarter you'll need to do this and report on your workers, how much they've worked in that quarter and how much you've paid them. It will become easier as we move into the second quarter because you've got all your workers registered by that time. Well, you might have new workers to add on, but that's a simple process like we just explained to Christy. But it should become a lot more simpler, and you'll become familiar with what you need to do and by when. So we recognise, in this first quarter or even into the next one as well, it's going to be a little bit new. And as human beings, sometimes we don't like change or doing different things. So it can be a little bit more challenging, but rest assured it will become a lot easier as we move into the scheme and everyone becomes more familiar with it.
So one of the questions we get asked quite a lot is how to remove a worker from your account. It's very easy to add one through your portal, but no one can find a spot to remove them from the portal. And that's because you can't. What you need to do if someone has terminated with you is they need to be removed on a return. And the reason for that is because we need to capture all of the service that they've accrued up till their finish date. Normally what you do is terminate them on the periodic return during that period where they finished up. And on the return, you'll see there's a termination date spot and a termination reason. And so you just need to put that in there. Once you've put those termination date and reasons in there and submitted your return, then the person will get removed from your account. You still need to declare the weeks worked and the remuneration for that person between the start of the period and up to their last day of work. Remembering that we don't include payments on termination in the remuneration calculations.
Excellent. Thank you, Mandy. Just while we've got a couple of minutes left in the returns theme, can we just pause and just, if anyone has any questions for anything we've spoken about up until this point, if they've got any questions that they think, oh, should have asked that as part of the previous theme or the one before that, jump on board and ask away. I know that we did ask for questions ahead of today's session, which we got a couple, and I'm pretty sure we've answered most of them up until this point in time. But if we haven't, please ask away. One thing that I do recall being asked about was how do we add additional contact points within the organisation on the employer portal, and that's a simple process. Once that can only be completed by the primary contact point.
Sorry, I'm on the phone.
I think it's simple on the employer portal. They click the organisation name and there should be a drop-down box that gives them the ability to add additional contacts. There can only be one primary contact point at any one time. I think, Mandy, is that correct?
Yeah, one primary contact, but you can add lots of other contacts if you want to.
Yeah.
All the functionality in the portal is the same for all of the contacts except the primary contact. They can do a few extra things like remove other contacts.
Yeah, brilliant. So just a name has just popped a quick question in, and we have had an employee leave as of the 17th, so Wednesday. We are paying out notice period. Is this notice period included?
The notice period would be included because normally they would work that period.
Yep. Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much. All right, 11:30, which means that we can move on to the next theme, which I believe is claims. This is going to be a good one. So just quickly, and I feel like I'm boring you with the same information for each theme, but on the top right-hand side of your slide, you'll see a unique QR code that will take you directly to the claiming long service leave information sheet. I'll chuck the link in the chat as well. Additionally, we have a webinar recording on our website called Making a Claim and Applying for Leave in These Early Stages, and I'll chuck that in the chat as well. Just before we move on to questions about claims, we've answered that last one, Mandy. That's all good?
Yep.
All right,
good.
cool. All right. Anyone got any claims questions that they want to ask? Any confusion around that process? Any information that they need to help with the claims process? There are a whole lot of different types of claims, I guess. There's your normal claim around when people want to take leave. There's a payout claim for those who have reached the entitlement to be able to do so. And then there are termination payments as well. Termination claims, not payments. So hands up if whoever wants any questions answered. Or just chuck your question into the chat. I would have thought this would be a popular theme, Mandy.
I would have thought so too, but that's okay.
Do you want to? I was going to say, do you want to explain that? Yeah, there's the two different. Was the manual process at this point in time, and then what we're aiming to do. Yeah.
There's a few different things to talk about. So at the moment, if workers want to make a claim, they need to do it on the PDF form, and the PDF form is available on our website. It is called SAPLSL
Long Service Leave Claim Form. I'll chuck it in the chat.
Yes. There's a couple of forms on there. So one is LSL claim form and the other one is LSL agreement form. The agreement one was about extinguishing liability. We've talked about that a little bit earlier today. But if the workers actually want to claim some long service leave, that's the LSL claim form. The worker and the employer both need to fill it out. The worker usually fills out the first page, the employer fills out the second page. If you haven't downloaded the form recently, but you did download it when we first released it, please go back and check it like each time you want to, or someone wants to apply for leave, because we have made a few changes to it based on the feedback we've been getting and the information that's been coming through. We wanted to try and make it a bit easier for people to fill out, and some of the options have changed and the information on the first page has changed as well. So yeah, please do go check that you've got the most recent version when you're filling it out. One of the things that we're finding a bit of confusion on with claims is what each kind of claim is. So a long service leave claim is where a person intends to take time off work. They need to be minimum of 7 days because it's a minimum of a week, and it needs to be in whole days. When we do long service leave, we do it in calendar days. So if a person only works 3 days a week and they want to take a whole week off work, they actually need to apply for 7 days because it's a calendar week. And that's really important that people understand that we are taking off a calendar week, because the amount that you get paid will be affected by the amount of days that you choose. A cash out claim is effectively a payment in lieu of leave. So if they want to take it, just like when someone cashes out their annual leave, if they just want to receive a payment but they don't actually want to take the time off work, that's what a cash out claim is. Again, it's a minimum of 7 days being paid out, a maximum of whatever it is that person has on their account. A termination payment is when we pay out all of a person's long service leave entitlements across the sector to them when they leave the sector altogether. So to be eligible for a termination payment, the person has to leave all of their jobs in the sector. It's not just the one that they're currently leaving now. It has to be all of them, and leaving the sector altogether and not intending to work in the sector for the next 12 months. So there's a few different options there with different claim types. And if people are not really sure about which ones to choose, they should absolutely get in touch with us. But there is a bit of a description on the first page that talks about that. When they retire, if they just want a lump sum payment of all of their long service leave entitlements, then yes, they would choose a termination payment. On retirement, some people prefer to take it as leave so that they get a weekly or fortnightly payment instead. They're welcome to do that as well. Or they can have a cash out claim if they don't want to take the whole thing as well. It's up to them. So on retirement, you can choose whichever option you want, but if you just want to close the account altogether, then yes, termination payment would be the choice. Another thing that's come up as well is that a person can claim long service leave even if they don't have an employer. So if a person has long service leave entitlements accrued and they just want pay for 3 weeks or something in between jobs, they can absolutely do that. You don't have to have an employer to be taking long service leave. What would happen is the person would fill out the claim form. They just wouldn't need the employer to fill out the employer section of the claim form. The other thing that we've had questions about, so I kind of touched on this earlier with the transitional provisions, but the information that we need about the service accrued before the scheme starts also goes on this form. When we're talking about the worker service, what we mean is the months of service accrued before the scheme started, and it's based on the continuity of service like in the Long Service Leave Act. So if someone's had a period of leave with no pay, then that's deducted from that work service in months. So it's not so much the calendar time they've spent working there, it's what it would be based on their normal long service leave accrual and how you would calculate their normal long service leave under the Long Service Leave Act. I'm gonna stop talking for a minute. Does anyone have any questions? No. Has anyone completed and submitted the form already that wants to sort of provide us with a bit of a feedback about how that went? I don't know who's in the session today. No? Okay. That's good too. Processing time for claims, we say to allow 3 weeks for processing. If we can process the claim faster than that and the payment needs to be made faster than that, we absolutely will. It's just that there's often a lot of information to gather and there's actually quite a lot of steps involved in processing these claims at the moment. So it can take a little longer than that depending on how quickly we get that information, and it can be faster than that. If it's a really straightforward claim for a week and we have all the rates of pay that we need, then we can process those very quickly.
And also I was just going to add, in busy holiday periods like we are currently in, we might get quite a number of claims at the same time. So it just does take our team a little bit longer if they have a lot of claims to action at the same time. So we will absolutely do them all as quickly as we can. Just rest assured that sometimes it might just take a little bit longer than you might expect it sometimes. I do remember, Mandy, that we had a question come up early pre-session today about claims, and it was around pro rata long service leave. And the question was, is it possible to take pro rata long service leave as leave if agreed to by the employer through the new scheme?
Okay, so the answer to that is no, unless there's an EBA that says that you can. So if the organisation and the worker is covered by an EBA that says long service leave is able to be taken as leave from 7 years, for example, then yes, they can do that. If the agreement just says long service leave can be taken earlier in agreement, then no, it can't. It needs to be explicitly say from this point in time it can be.
And the clear distinction on that is it has to be as part of the enterprise agreement, which is recognised by the Act. However, an internal company policy is not recognised by the Act, so will not be able to be relied upon if that's if something that your organisation has as a policy. There's some clear distinction in the Act around what can and can't be done in that situation, so just be mindful of that. If you get any questions from your workers or you want to send them to us and we can explain that to them as well.
The other thing that we wanted to quickly mention about mostly termination payments is when a person does terminate from the sector, we can't process their payment until after their last day of work. So the person can submit their claim form whenever they want to. But until the person has actually left all of their jobs in the sector, we're not able to process the payment to them. So when we're talking about a 3-week processing time, for those particular claims where a person's left the sector, that 3-week processing time actually starts on the day after their last day of work, because we can't process any of the claim until the person's actually finished working.
Yeah, thanks for that bit of clarity there, Mandy. I can't recall, and maybe my ears weren't working, but did we talk about payment options around timeframes for the different types of claims? So as an example...
Not exactly, no, but you can do that.
Thank you. So like I said up front when we started the claims conversation, there are those 3 types of claims. So if someone's taking leave, if someone wants a payout, if they have meet the criteria, or if they want a termination payment. So the only one that doesn't have any options is the termination payments, and that can only be paid out as a lump sum. I got caught out the other day with a bit of misunderstanding from my end. I gave some information that was incorrect, and I apologised up front for that. The termination payment is only a lump sum payment, whereas the other 2, if someone's taking leave or if they want a payout, can be taken as fortnightly or weekly or a lump sum payment option, and that can be selected on the actual claim form itself.
We would like to say though, it doesn't matter what frequency someone receives their long service leave payment, it's taxed the same regardless. So if a person is taking a long service leave payment, we're going to tax it based on the ATO weekly tax tables, and we're going to calculate that based on the weekly rate, regardless of whether we pay the whole 8 weeks of leave at once, for example, or whether that payment is received by the person on a fortnightly or weekly basis. The tax will be exactly the same either way. The same with a cash out claim. So those are calculated, the tax on those is calculated at the marginal rate. And again, it makes no difference whether or not we pay it as one single payment or whether it's made as a weekly or fortnightly payment to the person. It's still taxed in exactly the same way.
Yeah, good bit of information there, Mandy. I know some people were concerned that they were going to get pay more tax at a certain period of payment, but it's pretty clear that it all works out pretty even in the end. Okay, so as we draw closer to an end on claims, I'll just give everyone a last opportunity for any questions. I have dropped in the links to the long service leave claim form, the worker claims guide, and a copy of our recording of our webinar number 7, which we held only a couple of weeks ago. If you don't find what you're after in any of those documents, please reach out and let us know. Again, our email address is on the slide and our phone numbers. And we love hearing through our social media channels your questions or your positive thoughts around what this scheme means to the South Australian community services sector. So give us a follow, send us some questions, share amongst your networks.
We do have a couple more minutes, so I might just quickly touch on termination payments again. So when we are paying someone a termination payment, we're paying the entirety of their account to them. What we actually need to do before we can do that is get the information to calculate their long service leave up to their last day of work. So that's partly why we can't start processing it until then. When we were in the return section earlier, we talked about how ordinarily when someone terminates, you would put that on the periodic return and put in their termination date and their reason, and that's all well and good. But if someone's looking for a payment, sometimes we will try and get that information from the employer a little bit earlier so as not to hold up that payment. If, for example, someone finished up in April, then the return for that period wouldn't be due till July, and we don't really want someone to have to wait for 3 months to get their termination payment. In those cases, what we'll do is we'll be asking you for the information for just that person a little bit early. We're going to have a special return for that person called an out of cycle return, and effectively it will be the same information as we'd put on a periodic return. It's just individual for that person, and the idea is to process that one through faster so that we're able to pay that person their termination payment. So what we'll do is when we get that termination payment claim from the person, we will contact the employer and say, hey, can we have this information early, please? The levy payment is still going to be due on the normal day that it would be due on the 21st of the period, end of the period, but we're just going to process the actual return a little bit faster for that one person so that we can make their termination payment to them as well. When we do contact you about that, we'll provide you with instructions about what we need, but it will be, like I said, the same information as goes on the normal return.
Thank you. There's a couple of questions just dropped into the chat there, Mandy. I'm sure you can see them. So Michelle asked about the return template instructions.
Yep. So termination is resignation. So for our purposes, termination is anytime a person terminates from the employer. So it does include resignation. So any unused annual leave paid out when the person finishes up with you is not included in remuneration calculations. And the other questions about calendar week, if that's in association with claims, calendar week just means 7 days. So we talked about before, if the person only works 3 days a week, then 1 week for a calendar week is 7 days. Even though they would normally work 3 days and have 4 days off, for our purposes, that week is 7 days. It doesn't matter if it's Monday to Sunday or Wednesday to Tuesday. It doesn't make any difference. It just needs to be 7 consecutive days a week.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that. We are out of time for claims, but I'm sure if we get some time at the end of or during this next session, which is focused on worker-specific questions and answers. So I'm not sure if we've got any workers on board today that have any scenarios or questions specifically about their situation, or they want to know a little bit more. If you do, speak up and ask some questions. But if we do get time to answer any more questions around claims, we'll definitely get to that point. Again, for this theme, we have a QR code on the top right-hand side, which will take you directly to the Workers tab on our website. So there's a whole lot of information in there specifically for the workers themselves. There's a whole lot of Q&A, some FAQs, and also, like with the other themes, I'll drop some links to information sheets into the chat as well. Okay, so if we have any workers, or if anyone is a worker for their organisation and hold responsibility in that space as well, if there's anything that you want to ask, now is the time.
The biggest question we get asked from workers is what to do when their portal link has expired.
Oh, yeah.
Because the portal links unfortunately only last for 2 days for security reasons. We are trying to get this extended out to a week because we know how frustrating it is to have to keep contacting us and saying, can you please resend my link? But unfortunately at the moment, yes, it is only 2 days. If the person does need to access it and they haven't been able to do it in that 2 days, then they just need to email or call us and we'll send another one. But yes, we hear you, we hear how frustrating that is, and we're trying to resolve it as soon as we can.
The other thing, Mandy, I know we get a lot of questions around, or confusion, I should say, maybe around the multi-factor authentication process. And I know that we do that for privacy reasons and protecting everyone's information. So do you want to just talk a little bit about that? Not necessarily about the process of the MFA, but maybe anything that we need to make people aware of?
Yeah, so normally we'd say to use a Microsoft Authenticator, but the reason why the Authenticator process is there is for security. So long service leave payments can be thousands and thousands of dollars. So it is really important that we make sure that portals are secure so that not anyone can just hack in and apply for a claim and take the money that doesn't belong to them. So whilst it does seem super frustrating on a normal basis when you're trying to log in and then you have to pull out your authenticator app yet again, I hear you. I also have to do that. It's about security and it's about making sure that your money is safe. There is the guide on the website about how to use the multi-factor authentication process and which authenticator to download or which ones work the best and how to access them. But yeah, at the moment, that is absolutely a requirement and it is just for security reasons.
And just let me add as well, yesterday we had someone call us and suggest that it costs money to download an authenticator app on whatever platform you use. It shouldn't be. I know that the Microsoft authenticator that we use doesn't attract a cost when you download it from the store, the app store. So it shouldn't cost anyone any money to download the authenticator app. And if it does, just let us know. Which I was just going to add. I just added the multi-factor authenticator guide to the chat as well. Have a quick read if this is something that you don't do on a day-to-day basis like Mandy and I have to do. So it does become familiar. It is painful, and we recognise that it can be a bit painful. But at the end of the day, like Mandy said, to protecting all the information that we hold, it's essential that we use and have this process in place. I've also just put the link to the worker claims guide on the chat as well, just in case anyone needs it. As employers or people that work for an employer that are responsible for the long service leave portal or the portable long service leave scheme and delivering that within your workplace, we would encourage all employers to talk to their workers about the scheme. It's really important that the workers have an understanding of what this scheme is about. We've had some claims from people thinking that this is a scam or this is something that actually is not a reality. And so what we've been trying to do through our education processes and through holding these webinars and using our social media platforms is to educate people around what the scheme is and what it means for them. Mindful that we're talking tens of thousands, tens of thousands of workers in South Australia that will be eligible for the scheme. So we know that we're not going to be able to get to everyone directly. So we are really relying on their employers to help share that information about the scheme with their workforce. And if there's anything that an employer needs from our perspective, or from us, I should say, reach out. I know that Mandy and I have spent countless hours in offices with employers, talking to them about the scheme and trying to provide as much support and information that they need to help educate their workforce. If you're one of those people that needs some help, we've got Eva on board that can come out and sit down with you and talk to you about what the scheme means for you. I know she's been doing a lot of proactive phone calls and popping into people's workplaces to provide some information around what the scheme is. So what I would say is don't be worried about when Eva calls you or when she pops in or what the scheme means. We're more than happy to provide you with as much information about what it is and what you need to do whenever you really need it, to be honest. So if you do need us to come and visit your workplace and talk to your payroll team or your finance team or your chief executive for that matter, we're more than happy to find a time to do so. We also have some posters that we've created that are directed or there for your workers to understand a little bit more about the scheme. So if you do want some posters for your workplace, for your lunchroom, or to scatter around, you might have offices in different suburbs around Adelaide or in the regions. If there's anything that we can do to share some of those posters with you, reach out. They aren't downloadable on our website at this point in time. They are hard copies or printed copies, and we can provide them to you for your workplace. And on top of that, we do have some little postcard-sized postcards, again directed at your directed at providing information to your workforce as well. So we are more than happy to drop them off to your workplace as well, so you can scatter them around the office or whatnot. The other thing that we've been doing quite a lot of is providing employers with some written content that they can include in either a newsletter or on their internal website or intranet. Sometimes people might want a little bit of information so they can share it out via their an email to their workforce, especially if they have workers in different areas. Oh, and we got stickers, thank you. We have little stickers with our quite unique caravan. Make sure it's the green caravan for the community services sector. The blue caravan represents the construction portable long service leave scheme, and that's not to be confused with the scheme that we're talking to you about today. So essentially there's a lot of information and there's a lot of collateral available to those who want it. There's a lot of work going behind the scenes to make sure that there's as much knowledge and education and awareness about the scheme out there. So I would suggest to everyone that even if it's not your workplace, if you go to, I don't know, whether or not you're part of a working group that involves other workplaces, and make sure that everyone's aware of what this means and what this is available to them for. And we'll try and make sure that all those tens of thousands of workers and the thousands of employers across the state know exactly what's going on in this space. Mandy, I feel like I've just done enough talking quickly in that space. Is there anything we should touch on before we finish up in a couple of minutes? Is there anything burning?
Not really anything burning. Yeah, like we were just talking about those stickers. If anyone does want stickers or pens or postcards or anything, just let us know. We'll come out and visit you. Eva can also come and do a chat with your workers if you would like that. Otherwise, not really, no.
That's okay. I know we've done quite a few presentations with peak bodies or industry bodies as well, and that obviously helps get the awareness around the scheme out, as well as getting some support with helping share that information as well. So if you're part of a working group, or Angela says to us one day, says, I want you to come and talk to our workforce, we've absolutely will be able to do that and bring those stickers and those pens and those posters out there to make sure that all your workforce has the correct information. What we're trying to avoid is any misinformation and people getting confused and not necessarily realizing what the benefits of this scheme means for everyone in that space as well. So I would say don't be shy in asking for us to come out and do that with you. Maybe not on Christmas Day or New Year's Day, but we'll definitely be able to do that, in the new year as well. So don't be shy. Thank you, Angela.
I do have
Absolutely.
a fun fact.
Yes.
Before we go, I do have a fun fact. We have more than 23,000 workers registered right now.
That's great. So considering the scheme started on the 1st of October, which essentially is, 2.5 months into the scheme, having that many workers registered at this point in time is bloody awesome. So
yeah, thank you to everyone who's done that. Yeah,
thank you to everyone who's done that. We still have a little ways to go, but I think that needs to be recognised as a great win for everyone who's been able to do what they need to do. So, Angela, if you want to reach out to us about, or when you've had a chat to your management about getting someone on board and down there to have a chat to you, just let us know via the email or chuck something in our contact us page on our website, and we'll go from there.
We can chat online too. If you want a webinar to our two staff members, we can join online just like this.
Yeah, perfect. No, that sounds great. All right. You're welcome, Andrea. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate you guys giving us a bit of your time out of your very busy schedules, especially as we close in on a very important period for us all to spend some time with family and friends. So I'll wrap it up there. We'll say thank you very much. If you do have any questions, jump on the website, jump on the email address, give us a phone call. But I wish you a very Merry Christmas, a very safe and happy holiday period for those who are taking holidays, and for those who aren't taking holidays, make sure you do take holidays at some point in time and look after yourselves. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.